What's happening here? So live on both, but the music is not wanting to happen. See what I might do, because like I say, obviously we're live on on YouTube and Facebook, so welcome everybody. But I'm gonna come out and back in and see if we can get this music up and running. So won't be a second. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Mark's Side of the Ring. We'll be Mark's Side of the Ring without some kind of technical difficulty at some point. We'll iron them out eventually. I'm Mike Norris, joined here by Peter, Kev and Robbie. David couldn't make it this week unfortunately, but I'm sure we'll be welcoming him again soon. How are we all doing, guys? How's our week's been?
So, been alright, yeah?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. I was saying before we hit record, like, I'm going to have to, like, be really, really honest. Like, I have been, I've managed to catch a bit of AEW this week, but I think beyond that, I'm very much, like, I've been busy with some other stuff and I'm kind of out of the loop. So I've been kind of looking forward to tonight, to be honest, just to get a bit caught up in the world of wrestling. But from what Peter tells me, it's been a bit of a slow news week. Obviously, I think the news that has come has been pretty big news. But I think other than that, it's been not a lot of news, just kind of more quality than quantity, would you say? Does that feel right to you?
Yeah, I think it's been that.
Yeah, sounds about right, aye.
Yeah. So what we'll do, if the technological gods will let us do it, we'll get the news. We'll get our breaking news music on, and we'll hand over to our breaking news correspondent Peter Handy to catch you and me up on all of the wrestling news over the last week. So let's see if the technology gods will allow it. The technology gods will not allow it. So let's just go for it. So yeah, what's been going on? What's been going on this week, Peter?
No AEW locker room drama. But we'll give it a go. For once, the world of wrestling news in 2023 is slower than Tyrus Ultimate Warrior promo, but I'm nothing if not up for a challenge. Well, with the titles moving back to the other side. The week also saw NXT and AEW back to their regular slots and a gripping backstage sit down with Adam Copeland and Renee Paquette. We'll get AEW hitting just over 900,000 over Marvel. On screen Lex Luthor and LeBron James v Michael Jordan. Jordan, don't at me. With Impact event turning point set for the Walker Dome in New and wrestling, Simon Miller will make his Impact debut. Best for his to the suspect Impact of YouTube boxing. The his Friday Night SmackDown, where the aforementioned Paul and Ray set up their US title match for the Crown. Also on the show, we got the conference against the Tribal Jesus also made the safer. It's the WWF SmackDown. The EST of WWE, Bianca Belair, returned, making the save for Charlotte Flair from Damage Control. On himself, Sting announced on Dynamite that bringing talk about this and more during the show.
And there we go. I know you guys should be able to see it. I know I had some problems seeing Peter, but people on the live stream should be able to hear all that wrestling news there. So ironically, there's still bits of it that I don't know. So we'll get to it as we go along. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, obviously, I know one of the things we are going to talk about, which we'll get to shortly, was a big announcement by Sting on Dynamite. I think that's going to take up quite a bit of our conversation, to be honest, having a good old chat about Sting. But there's been, a few things that I picked up there that have been quite cool over the last week. And I think the big one that I'd like to start on, because it kind of jumps us back to what we were kind of doing in an early episode, is just to jump on, Bound for Glory was last night. I believe it was last night, kind of for the UK. It was on in the early hours of the morning. And there was an announcement at the end of Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory that the company is going to return to its, well, not its original name of TNA, but the one it's best known for. Obviously, the company was founded as NWA TNA, but I'd say, to be fair, I mean, we did about 1,000 episodes of Impact, which might have been, was that episode 1 that we did that?
One or two, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we kept tripping over our words, trying not to say TNA. You know what I mean? And so now they've kind of just sort of given in. I think even in the statement, Scott D'Amore's like, you know what, people still call us TNA. So, it just seems a sense to go back to it. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, on Kev, like kind of returning to the TNA name? I mean, we'd said back in episode 1, like the company had been through so many names, but this is by far the most recognizable.
Yeah, and I think did it at a really good time, I think, with WWE and AWH, like sort of like they're putting themselves across now. I mean, they've got so much in there now as well. I mean, there's rumors that Will Ospreay is going to for TNA as well. So it's really exciting that they've gone through so much over the years and they've managed to cling on, and now it's a bit of a renaissance for them. And like, why not use it? Like, everyone calls it TNA. Like, everybody I know doesn't say Impact, they say TNA. So I think it was just a good call to have it back as TNA. But apparently, I read the rings are coming back, which is a shame.
I mean, for me, yeah, like absolutely. You think of it as TNA. I think we always have, and I think that's what I was going to come to. That I'd read. Obviously, Will Ospreay has had a hell of a year. He's wrestled at All In. He's wrestled at Forbidden Door for AEW. He's done some amazing stuff in Japan. He's also, doing stuff for well, let's just call them TNA now. They're saying next year, but that, as far as I'm concerned, it's from now. Like, even obviously, we're all from the northeast, the north of the northeast of England. Ospreay is going to be wrestling in Newcastle next weekend for Turning Point that they're taping in Walker, and yeah, there seems to have become this. He's even said himself, TNA are very much in the running for him when his contract expires. That he may sign with them. How likely do you think that is, Robbie? Do you think that do you think that they have a shot of bringing him in, and how much of a blow do you think that would be to AEW? Because I feel like they probably thought they had it in the bag.
I would say out of the three, WWE I don't think would fit him.
Nah.
Because they don't let him compete elsewhere. And this seems to be where Ospreay's thriving, is he can just turn up anywhere and wrestle. So I think it's out of TNA and AEW because he'll have that freedom. But I mean, if TNA sign him, fuck me, it's a big signing. And you never know, we could be talking about AEW and TNA fighting for second spot this time next year. I'd probably say more AEW is going to sign for, but it's like 60-40 to AEW, I think, at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the guy at all, so anything I say is complete like guesswork. But I just don't see him. Like, if it's about money, then it's AEW. Do you know what I mean? Like, Tony Khan's essentially got like, you know, he's as much money as he needs to throw at him to make that happen. But if it's not about that, I guess it's about satisfaction. Like, to be fair, he's had, I mean, and I've said it a couple of times on the show, he had a phenomenal match with Kenny Omega. I enjoyed his match with Jericho when I watched it live at Wembley. But then he's doing some really cool stuff with TNA as well. So I guess it's about kind of when he looks back in his year and he's like, right, I've, you know, done all this stuff in Japan, I've done this stuff in America. What is it that he's going to be most excited about? I mean, Peter, you were at Wembley as well for All In. What did you make of his match with Jericho?
Class. He was I don't think, other than wrestling for the world title tonight, I don't think it could have been any better from a personal. Imagine anything being better than do what he has. Into him are in WWE.
And yeah,
Rhodes previously, but I think take it off the money, and I think they'll want to. You know, we're still a place to go, and it's going to be even signing talent, etc. And
I think it's going to be a really, really interesting time. You know, I think it could, you know, where Will Ospreay goes could actually be a huge indicator for the direction that wrestling goes in 2024. I agree with you, Kev. It seems like TNA is having this massive kind of upswing at the moment, which, as a long-time fan who did lapse a bit, I'll admit that, really, really nice to see. Do you know what I mean? Like, I did watch some of the 1000th episodes and I really enjoyed it. You know, I think it's great seeing the likes of Mickey James and Bully Ray and people kind of going back into it. But a mix of all these kind of new stars, or at least new to Impact anyway. Obviously, Trinity's doing really, really, really well there. I think she's obviously returned. That makes you think, you know, we're presuming Mercedes Moné ends up in AEW. What's not to say that she doesn't follow Trinity into TNA. A lot of fun possibilities. So, yeah, I'd say best of luck to them kind of over the coming months, because I think it could be a really, really exciting time for them. I'd be really interested to know what Jeff Jarrett thinks of them changing the name back, because obviously he's not involved anymore and he's part of AEW. I'd be interested to know Jarrett's thoughts on it. So, you know, plugging someone else's podcast, but I'll be checking out My World this week to see when he tells Conrad what he thinks about it. But yeah, absolutely. You know, so congratulations for a great show. Another one. I think they've had a hell of a year, actually. That's TNA, to be honest, in terms of pay-per-views. We're also heading, you know, hurtling towards Crown Jewel. We'll do our predictions nearer the time for Crown Jewel. This is quite a quiet week, it is, in terms of where's Roman Reigns. Like, my sources came up empty, so I've got no where's Roman Reigns this week, unfortunately. But one thing we do know is that he's going to be, which we thought was going to happen. We talked a bit about it last week. Roman Reigns LA Knight at Crown Jewel. And, you know, it sounds strange, but even just looking at the poster, it felt right. It felt good. You know, he looked like he belonged there. You know, obviously, I don't know much about what's kind of happened on SmackDown because I've been obviously busy with other things. But Robbie, have you caught SmackDown? Kind of how did they kind of build into the match, and what did you think of it?
I caught it. Wasn't not much really stood out. They've done a little bit of LA Knight and Paul Heyman at the beginning.
Mhm.
You know, like the usual, give Roman Reigns this warning and all that. Apart from that, it was a slow show. Obviously, Jay came back to pay Jimmy a little receipt for Monday, which I might add, Monday's result bullshit. It was too soon, far too soon.
I did feel like, what's the point? Because as much as the press conference made the title change worthwhile, I did kind of wonder why they'd done it. I felt they should have stayed with Judgment Day, to be honest. But
yeah,
that's just me.
I mean, apart from that, nothing really stood out on SmackDown. Yeah, it's been a really, really slow week. Yeah, that's kind of what I've got about SmackDown. It was all right.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've caught Dynamite. Probably as soon as we're finished here, I'm going to go downstairs and watch Collision. I tell you what, I wouldn't normally but I'm going to tell you about a dream that I had because I had a wrestling related dream last night. Right, it was so bizarre. So I think it was meant to be like all in to 2024. Okay, and it was the main event was MJF against Julia Hart. Right. So he came out and Julia Hart held her own. It was quite an impressive match. But then Mercedes Moné came out, but she changed her name to Samantha. So Samantha came out, and then Julia Hart took this massive bump, and Bray Wyatt was there, but he was just called Wyatt, and he helped Julia Hart beat MJF for the title. So. I'm not necessarily going to put it on your bingo cards. I don't think it's likely to happen. Probably impossible to happen, quite frankly. But so it just shows you, I think, because like I said, this week I've been, for those who don't know, I've been really busy preparing for Nerd Fright Fest in North Shields. I've been selling copies of my book. So I haven't been watching as much wrestling as I would on the weekend. So I think my brain was like, you haven't watched enough wrestling. So you're going to have a really fucked up dream about it. But Julia Hart and MJF wrestling for the AEW title. So yeah, so I'm going to catch Collision and stuff, but it does feel like it's been, and it's not a bad thing. I think sometimes we do get a bit of a lull, but I think 2023 has just been such a crazy year. I think, maybe we needed to put the brakes on for a bit. What do you think?
I mean, we've been lucky. I mean, we've got 5 or 6 decent shows. There's bound to be a slow week somewhere.
Yeah.
We're still a couple weeks out from a pay-per-view, so I'm expecting it to heat up a bit more by then. I hope anyway.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, in terms of the news, you can go in and look at all the news aggregations or specific sites like Wrestling Observer or Fightful or PW Insider or anything like that, and you can just start reporting stuff kind of for the sake of doing it. Obviously, we don't go live every day, so it's like we're not literally talking about. It's like, well, yeah, do we need to know about this little thing or that little thing? It's like, is it for a weekly show as around? It's like it's the minutiae, and it's not really worth kind of diving into. And again, it's not like it's like the backstage producers on this, or there's rumors of this, and it's like even going through and even in Q&As that I've listened to on the certain channels, the questions that people are asking in. And some of the news coming from that isn't, starting either or anything groundbreaking or something. It's settled, but I think is we get closer to Survivor Series certainly, and then it's Rumble season, and then it's Mania season, and there's a lot of free agents or contracts supposed to be due up in 2024. I think we'll start getting bigger topics, but again, the crux of what we're looking to do here wasn't necessarily dive into the news on a weekly basis and make that the kind of crux. It was like it's what we're going to talk about as fans, and as we'll get to. I think I could probably safely say that all 4 of us are a fan of Sting, and I'll have some thoughts on that as we get forward. And again, that was the crux of it. We've got some good ideas from the page on some like kind of questions that they'd asked, and the good thing was they were good questions, but they were actually good long form topics as well. H wasn't injured in 2001. There was another one that escapes us. Kev Addict came up with a good one about like the what if WCW won and all that type of thing. So there's loads we can go. I think we've been so fortunate that there's been a lot of news to talk about. That's what we've been to focus on, and now we're kind of getting back to the meat and potatoes, what we primarily wanted to do. So I'm looking forward
Definitely.
to talking about Sting.
And I mean, it seems like a good time to move on to Sting because, like you've mentioned him, and obviously, I think it's something that we've known's been coming for a while. I guess we didn't know whether there'd be a big announcement or whether he'd just disappear off into the sunset or what it would look like. But for those who didn't see Dynamite this week, Sting announced that his last match is going to be at Revolution 2024. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's up there with kind of Taker's last match. I think it's a hugely, I guess, the big difference between Sting and Taker is that Sting had some, as that character, had some serious runs in quite a few companies. Obviously, best known for his time in WCW, which I'm sure we'll talk about loads. TNA, I loved his TNA run. To be honest, I really did. WWE run, I'm sure we've all got opinions about that. And then obviously and through no fault of his own, I'll add. And then of course this most recent run in AEW, where again we were lucky enough to see Sting in London, in a coffin match, which was never something that I thought would be on the cards. So I mean, let's start with you, Pete, because obviously you brought him up. Like, what was your initial reaction when you'd heard that he'd announced, that basically the clock's ticking?
I was genuinely surprised, and I know that sounds stupid because he's in his 60s, but it just kind of caught us off guard. I was like, oh wow! And the weird thing was, my friend had mentioned like, oh, so what do you think Sting's last match should be? And I was like, that's a random question for a Thursday morning, and I was like, oh, and then I saw the news, like, oh god, it totally by surprise, a little bit sad that he's calling time, but I am happy that he gets to do it on his terms, and it's going to be nice for us as fans to be able to give him his flowers, while he's here, and not kind of miss this opportunity, and know that that's going to be the last one to show him, kind of what he meant to us as fans growing up and fans now. And there's some of the guys we've grown up and watched, we haven't had that chance to really do. So, it's going to be a bittersweet moment to watch come February, probably.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's obviously all of us. He's been wrestling as long as we've all been wrestling fans. Well, predating that, of course. And it's funny because my wife was watching. I think it might have been Wrestle Dream. It was Adam Copeland's debut. I'll call him Edge till the end of time. It was Adam Copeland's debut, and she'd seen Nick Wayne, and she'd been like, how old's he? And I was like, he's 18. And she was like, he'll have been like growing up watching Edge, and then now he's getting speared by him. That must be really surreal. As you're talking, you could say the same about Sting, for a lot of the AEW locker room, that they'll have grown up watching him in WCW, in TNA, and then now, people like Swerve Strickland, Nick Wayne, all the people that have faced him in this run, they now get this opportunity. They've had this opportunity to get in the ring with him and Darby Allin, and must be bucket list for them. Like, it must be amazing. I mean, what did you think, Kev? I know obviously Peter said that he was obviously a bit surprised, shocked, sad. I mean, did you see it coming, or for you was it similarly kind of, oh wow, no, I didn't think he would be retiring anytime soon?
No, I didn't. I'm sort of glad he's gone out on a high, like at one of the. This we know it'll definitely be a retirement, and it's going to be like Ric Flair. Or I think this is like 20th fair retirement match. This will be. I was sort of really big. Like, he's still at the top of what he does, and all the crap CW, like all the really bad storylines, and he just went with it, and like even like he was part of the NWO's formation, like he was the opponent. Like, I don't think how he just he's always been he was always loyal to WCW, like a bit like the Undertaker in WWF. Like, they would never they would never have moved to companies like Leroy. And I just think it's really good that he's been given this like time, like still in his 60s as well, like in a, rather than just like just like out with a bang. He's not like faded away, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's like if you go on Cage Match and you'll see like what people's last matches are, and obviously there'll be people like Stone Cold, who it's a WrestleMania main event with Kevin Owens, or if you even want to exclude that one, I mean, I really enjoyed it, but even before that, like a WrestleMania moment with The Rock, or these, even Taker in his kind of cinematic match with AJ Styles. For every one of them, there's a Ric Flair's last match. There's a I'm sure like Mick Foley's last WWE match was like a Royal Rumble, but then there was a tag team match for some indie show, and these are people that you feel like should have that final big moment. And I think for me, and I'd never really thought about this all week until we're talking about it now, it's so nice that his final match is going to be on pay-per-view, for this up-and-coming company, where, win or lose, I don't think that matters. I think it's just kind of what he wants to do, rather than that match at Night of Champions where he's injured by the buckle bomb, and we all just presumed it was over, and I think that was a really sad moment. I mean, to rewind a little bit, obviously, I mean, Robbie, were you surprised, not so much for Sting turning up in AEW, because there were a lot of legends kind of managing and making appearances, but when he got in the ring, was that something that surprised you after what we'd seen in WWE?
No, because it's what happened in WWE was out of his hands, where he's had a chance to kind of right that wrong and get back. And I think getting back in AEW, he's had a chance to show basically what WWE have missed the boat on. I mean, because they could have had all those matches with Sting had they just tried to better. And AEW's given him that freedom to be able to go in and do what he wants and still prove he can still do it. That was the shocking thing, like jumping off ledges through tables and a 60-year-old. That, really people 60-year-olds shouldn't be doing that. But he's proved that he can still go.
But I think he reminds me of, like, and not just because it's black and white face paint, but it's like Kiss. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm wearing a Kiss t-shirt tonight, actually. Like I'm a huge Kiss fan, and it's like, like they're on their so-called final tour that I've been to 2 of the same date where they told me it was the last date. But like, Kiss, they wear the face paint, so because of that, like, obviously, they're older, but the face paint kind of masks that a little bit, pardon the pun, because it's like, you go and see the Rolling Stones, and that they're as old as they are. You go and see Iron Maiden, you can see them getting older. With Kiss, it's more difficult to see because obviously of the face paint. And I feel the same with Sting. Like, he doesn't look 60 years old. Like he wrestles with a shirt now rather than a singlet or whatever to kind of, for whatever reason. But like I don't go out, like, he doesn't walk out and I don't think there's an old man. I do think that, pairing him with Darby Allin made us laugh because it would be like, it's like Sting and his son. Like, that's what I've thought the whole time. It's like, oh, there's baby Sting and there's Sting. But no disrespect to Darby Allin there. It just the dynamics always amused us. Do we think, obviously we'll get much deeper into like his career and all of that as we go on, but to stick with sort of the last match in present day and stuff, you said obviously your mate Peter had asked you like Sting's last match. I guess twofold question. Do we think it's a tag team match with Darby Allin, or do we think it's a singles match? And what is that last match going to be, or what would you like it to be? And I'll start with Peter.
I say the same as I said to my friend. Straight answer straight away was Darby Allin. I think it's and I think you can kind of get there, and Sting might just say, look, it's my last match. You've meant everything to me, like helped keep him going type of thing. He didn't think he'd do it. You've helped me as much as I believe I've helped you type of thing. Just have a go out, and Darby goes over, and then you've got like a nice... It doesn't mean Sting has to leave AEW either. He can still be there. He's just not going to wrestle anymore. And I think Darby was is the perfect one. I think it's just a nice kind of a passing of the torch and, put somebody over Young. I mean, because if it's anybody else, there's going to be less intrigue about it. Is he going to win? Is he not going to win? At least with Darby, he still might. He's still got it enough in him, but he just wants to go. But it's Darby. It has ruined my prediction that it was going to be Sting's retirement match at All In 2024 against Darby Allin, but it's gone right out the window, that one now.
I mean, to be fair, until there was no kind of fanfare, I'd wondered whether All In 2023 might have been his last match. But then when the build-up didn't happen and stuff, I obviously realised I was wrong. Does anyone feel differently? Do we feel like it is Darby Allin, or does anybody else kind of have someone else in mind that they'd like it to be, or they think it's going to be?
Nah, I agree with Peter. Has to be Darby Allin. It's the only sensible choice anyway, because you don't have to have a feud that gets personal. It can just be like the Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, right? I want to do as my last match, right? No bother. Yeah,
That's how it should go. Exactly that.
Yeah. No bother. Yeah.
No bother, Sting. Can he?
But yeah, it's the only. For me, it's the only sensible choice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Feel the same, Kev.
Yeah, cause from what I've seen, he doesn't really have an ego. He will be the person to say, "Yeah, I'll put you over on me." Like him. He seems like a person who would want to do that for what's best for business, rather than going into business for himself, as Paul Heyman always says.
Yeah.
He seems like throughout his career, he's always done that. Out like that as well, just to show. Like, I think it'll be really good for him to do that. Just show he's had this stellar career. Matches putting somebody else over. I think that'll be really good.
I think it's either Darby Allin or, judging from how well she wrestled MJF in my dream, Julia Hart, because she was proper good. Anyway, I mean, obviously we'll have loads of different Sting memories from like all the companies that he's wrestled in. I mean, I know did you say you were watching one of his matches with Ric Flair earlier today, Peter?
Yeah.
Which one was it again? Did you say?
It was when he won the world title for the first time from Flair. So it was Great American Bash 90. Oh God, I literally just watched it. Yeah, it must have been 91, I think it was. And
so we're like proper surface Sting.
It was good old fashioned surface Sting. The crowd was red hot, and a lot of times you go back to watch some of the matches from the 80s and early 90s, especially some of the WCW ones, that little bit of a slow style. Some of them don't age quite as well. And other than standard average WCW production, match was really good. Good heel, red hot baby face. Heels banned from ringside. The baby faces surround the ring to make sure that's not going to happen. And the crowd, little crowd, but they were hugely into him. And there's a part of that story as well, which touches on what Kev was saying, is like Sting's mentality. Initially, I think Sting was supposed to win the belt like kind of earlier, and Flair said, "I will drop it to, I'm dropping it to him. He's next up. He's the next in line." And Sting got injured, and they wanted Flair to drop it to Luger, and Flair's like, "Nope, I promised him. I said I would make him, so we're waiting to do it." And then, Flair put him over like $1 million. So I think that speaks to part of where Sting's mentality of how to do business is, that somebody kept their word in an industry where very few people tend to do. And that's probably stuck with him throughout that. But it was a good one. And then I watched a War Games match, Sting Squadron against Dangerous Alliance, which was incredible. Really, really good War Games match. So some good memories there of Sting and those ones. But, I'm not going to be the only one that's got some Sting memories, I'm sure.
But I think what's cool, I think it's cool with starting with like Surface Sting, because it's so easy, like, especially with his longevity. Like, it's been what? So let's think. NWO is 96. So then like Crow Sting, as he gets known, you're talking like late 96, early 97. So most of his career that we've watched, but there's still some amazing kind of Surface Sting memories. Like, I loved loved his feud with Vader. Now Vader's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like I think Vader was absolutely phenomenal, kind of in Japan and in WCW. Someone else who was kind of got short shrift in WWF, I think. But Sting and Vader's feud, kind of building up to Starrcade '92, I think. Absolutely phenomenal. And again, it's like obviously, you know, Vader just this big untouchable guy, and then Sting, who was, you know, because obviously Flair had made him, and then Sting becomes, you know, the man that the fans are really behind. Really awesome feud. And then, to be fair, anyone would know that I would say this, but I love his feud with Cactus Jack as well, because, you know, that's a one that arguably made them both. I think, you know, I think that maybe Sting was having some less than stellar opponents at that point, and then Mick Foley comes and is willing to be thrown around and, you know, do the Cactus Jack thing. So Sting thought, right, yeah, this is fun. Let's go for this. So I think for me, in terms of the Surfer Sting era, they're the two feuds that stand out for me. And I always think, I can't remember the feud, but there was like this really awful movie that they did to build up to one of the pay-per-views. It was like a little TV movie.
Yeah, like Baywatch, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Amazing. I might have to have a look for that on the WWE Network when we're done. Because was it? It's Luger and Sting, and Vader's involved, and there's someone I can't remember who the other one is.
Davey Boy
should
Smith's
know this.
definitely in it. It's Davey Boy Smith.
Maybe it's Davey Boy Smith rather than Luger. I'm gonna have to seek it out. But if anyone, like, there'll be people who are watching this that'll be like, I know what you're talking about, and it's called this, and like, it's just got the cheesiest acting ever, and it was like a bit, like I say, a build up to, I think it was Bash at the Beach, or maybe Beach Blast, or something like that. But definitely worth a watch. In terms of like, we'll move our way up. We'll kind of go through the timeline, but you know, any other kind of Surfer Sting memories that people are wanting to share or kind of get stuck into?
I remember him promoting the Shockmaster, and he's like so excited about it. And he's like, the Shockmaster, and then obviously that happened. But I just remember Sting being really like electric about it, like, and he put his entire heart into it, and then obviously that happened. And I just felt when you watch the back, you just feel really bad for Sting because he's trying his best to like make this person seem like really invincible and that.
You know what I love about the Shockmaster though? That it's just a glittery Stormtrooper helmet. Like, it's like they've been like, right, okay, we need a mask for this guy. Here's a helmet. Oh, that's a Stormtrooper. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, mate. No one watches Star Wars. Just put some glitter on it. It's fine. And I don't know how they got away with it. But yeah, I mean, the Shockmaster's a classic moment. But yeah, I forgot it was Sting that introduced him, actually. Because he really builds it up as well, doesn't he? And it's the Shockmaster. And then he like trips over the set, and that's it.
He did Davey Boy Smith because he fell on his arse. Because it was, I didn't realize it was like live. It was on the pay-per-view, so they cordoned off a section to look like a studio, but it was completely live.
Oh,
because I was thinking, why don't they just do it again? But they couldn't. It was like live, like everyone watched it who bought the pay-per-view.
That's amazing.
The Kool-Aid man gone wrong.
Gotta be that's a topic one week, isn't it? Like, sort of best wrestling fails or something. Like, and with Shockmaster would absolutely would fit into that category. That'd be awesome. I mean, I'm sure like I say, another topic I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, like at length, is the NWO. You know, massive storyline. Again, if we want to talk about things that didn't get a fair shake in WWE, NWO would be another category, but that's for another time. And I think what I always find really fascinating is that, you know, they really and ahed over whether they were going to make Hogan the third man, and Sting was going to be the backup. Mm-hmm. That if Hogan was like, actually, no, I'm not doing it, it was going to be Sting. I mean, I guess we're getting into kind of fantasy booking territory, because for me, Sting, you know, he was like the guy against, you know, the big bad NWO. How obviously, yeah, he was in Wolfpack, which obviously we'll see For the Love of Wrestling next year that he's Wolfpack Sting. How do you think it would have been if he'd been the third man, if it had been Hall, Nash, and Sting? What do you think that would have been like?
I don't think it would have worked. It wouldn't have been the same.
see, Hogan's just easily, like, you can dislike Hogan quite easily. I don't think you can with Sting. I mean, I can't stand Hogan. I won't even watch any of his matches, but I don't know. See, I missed a lot of WCW because I was back then. I was a WWE guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of missed the NWO. Caught bits of it. But I don't think it would have worked personally.
I think so. I think that promo Hogan did that night, he was basically saying, "Oh, you all turned on me, and this is your fault." And you couldn't really done it with Sting because he was still so over. And I think he wouldn't have had an excuse to do it, and it wouldn't have been believable. Where like Hogan's like, he's been rejected by WCW, so he's got Hall and Nash, and now they're going to take over. And it was that whole, are they working for WWF?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the main thing that sold it. I mean, obviously NWO, everyone joined, but at that time it was, are they infiltrating WCW?
I'm sure I joined at one point. I think I was in the NWO for a while.
For life.
I'm pretty sure I was. I didn't do very much, but I was there. But no, I think like this brings on. It was just made me think when we were talking there that like, so obviously at Hogan's peak in the 80s and the early 90s, like he was like the man, probably to the point where in WWF this is in early WCW initially, like where it got to this point where I think almost like I think they needed to turn him heel because I think people just sort of soured on him and this, that, and the other. But I think even like I've watched, like you watch certain Royal Rumbles where like Hulk gets eliminated and he's meant to be like the big white meat baby face and he's kicking off and having a hissy fix. He's been eliminated, which just doesn't feel like you know. So say like imagine if John Cena did that when he was eliminated from Royal Rumbles. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a really decent comparison. But then it's like I guess what I was thinking to myself is it's like, you know, that was Hogan and he was the man in WWF for a long time. Sting was arguably for me the two people I think of when I think of WCW are Ric Flair and Sting. They're the two that I think of. And I think you're right. There's never been a period that I can think of where people have turned against. Like even there's times in like TNA, for example, where he was a heel, but there's never been times I think where we've turned against Sting and been like, oh, sick of Sting, like he needs to piss off. Like that's never happened. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we've just kind of really embraced Sting and you know, because there's not many people I think that we can say that for.
I think he's just a likable guy.
Quite easy, earnest.
Yeah.
He can wrestle as well. I think that's the main thing.
You know, Sting's not just catchphrase after catchphrase after catchphrase. Like when you hear him talk, it sounds genuine. That's how I warmed to him, because I only really come to terms with him TNA, believe it or not. That was my first big experience of Sting.
Because I think like I'm thinking about all like the big kind of your big names. Do you know what I mean? Like so, you know, obviously we've dealt with Hogan already, or like, you know, The Rock. You know, there was a point where people got sick of The Rock, like when he was unfairly, arguably, like when he got into Hollywood and people were like, well, fuck you. Like, so, you know, he had a period like that. I think the only other person I can think of who maybe hasn't had that kind of backlash at any point is Stone Cold. I think he's the only one. I think even other people, like even Taker's had that period where people were a bit like, oh, you know, when he was the American Badass, and people were like, oh, I don't know, I just want him to be the dead man again. And you know, you have some wrestlers who maybe stick around too long, so then their popularity starts to wane a bit. The only other person I can think of other than Sting that maybe that hasn't happened to is Stone Cold. So he's in pretty good company, I think, with pretty much anyone else. You can see a moment where even if a little bit, it's like people either get a bit bored or they get a bit fed up with them. You know what I mean? John Cena's gone the other way, bizarrely, and that like everybody hated him and now they love him. But I guess he's a bit of an anomaly. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, we've maybe jumping over the NWO stuff a little bit, but a lot of my exposure to Sting as well was TNA, and I remember it feeling like a really big deal when he turned up. And I remember feeling like, oh well, he'll do a couple of matches, probably kind of like his WWE run would become. But thinking, he might do a couple of matches, but I don't see him being like this long-term part of the. But he really was, and he was around for a long time, and he was in major storylines. He had some great matches. I mean, we'll start with you, Robbie, because obviously you brought up TNA. What are your kind of TNA memories of Sting?
The biggest one that sticks out is kind of not his fault, but it was a Jeff Hardy match.
Yeah, I was
just thinking about that. Actually.
Yeah, where Jeff Hardy could barely fucking walk to the ring. It was Bischoff that come out and just said, "Right, look, a Scorpion Death Drop, 1, 2, 3, done." Apart from that, main event Mafia stuff. I think primarily through TNA, I think he was a heel. It wasn't until the end of his run where he was a babyface, but unfortunately, that's the biggest memory for me is that Jeff Hardy match.
I think what I remember that in terms of from Sting's perspective is kind of his reaction to all of that. So he's walking up the rank when the fans are booing and chanting bullshit, and he's like, "I agree." Yeah. I agree, because again, we're talking about early on in terms of Ric Flair doing business correctly for him and him getting this kind of instinct for what the business should be. And by this point, Sting is a veteran, and he probably did think, like this is crap. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like,
it was disrespectful, really, what Jeff Hardy had done. To how many of those wrestlers in that locker room would have killed to be in that position. To wrestle Sting. They didn't get it, and then Jeff Hardy went and just fucked it up. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but luckily that's not what defines Sting's career, that match. So
no, absolutely. I think when I think of TNA, so again, I do think of main event Mafia, but I think of Joker Sting. He's kind of who pops into my head. And I remember when he first did it, I was a bit skeptical. I was like, are we just kind of cashing in on the Dark Knight, which was really kind of popular at the time? But I think he made it work. I do. It's to the point where when he kind of sort of reprised it in AEW not long ago, like I was really pleased to see it. Like it was, very much an era of Sting that I think the reaction to it, I think people were pleased to see it. So maybe a bit underrated. I mean, what do you think of Joker Sting, Peter? Like, were you a fan of that, or did you think it was a bit unnecessary? Or
it was the only kind of bit of Sting I really got to see at length from TNA, other than kind of clips. So I've seen stuff without the context, but the Joker Sting, I was like, this is a bit odd, but it was fun. It was a little bit different. It was just the right of amount of silly to not make him less serious. So it was kind of this, like, he's just like, I'm doing it to make you uncomfortable, as in who he's across the ring from. I'm doing it to make you uncomfortable rather than, I'm a goofball now. And I kind of like that thing. And it was just sort of things like, well, maybe you have gone a little bit crazy. What are you going to do about it? And it's like, I don't know. It's all, for me, I thought it was working. Like, and again, the subtle nods to it when he's done it in AEW. And again, did a nod with the face paint for the video promo they did leading up to the entrance as well, which I thought was so nicely done as well. And obviously referenced Joker Sting in his Hall of Fame induction as well. He says, "Can I say Joker Sting?" And everyone popped for it, and Vince is probably going, "What? Not knowing what it is.
What's he on about? Damn it!"
Probably, but. But I think that's the thing when we talk about this WWE run, and everyone goes, "Oh, was it the kind of stick it to WCW one last time?" I think it was to stick it to Sting. As stupid as that
because he's been loyal.
Because he turned them. Apparently, there was big moves to bring him across in the early 90s to kind of fill the gap the Warrior left, and obviously he didn't join up in after his Time Warner contract ran out just after the invasion. Obviously, he sat and collected the money, and then obviously I think it was maybe rumored to be on the cards that he was supposed to wrestle Taker, and then that fell through again. So it's like he's kind of passed on it 3 times, and I think Vince will bring him in because he'll make money, but he'll not do anything else to. He'll make the most amount of money he can with doing the little as possible because he's said no thrice. I think it's a thing. So I think that's it. So which is stupid, but
I think that's why he got such a shit run as he did. Vince was basically, last of the WCW guys to get, right, I've got you. You've turned me down a few times. Now I'm going to make you fucking pay. But it was before TNA, he was thinking about signing with WWE, and there was something with The Rock and Booker T.
Yeah.
And when Booker T had got in the ring, The Rock had turned to him and said, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And from an interview, Sting said he went from that minute, he was like, "Nah, I'm not going." And then he eventually did go, and Vince eventually got the boot him to try and dominance again. I'm WWE. I won. You lost, and you're going to keep losing.
Which is interesting because we see like Cody and Jade Cargill kind of coming into WWE now. I mean, obviously, I guess time will tell with Jade, but like with Cody, they really looked after him, because they could have done the same thing. They could have been like, right, well, you started our first genuine opposition in 20 years. Fuck you. But they haven't. They've they've really, well, if they let him finish the story, they've given him a really nice little run, and I think it'll be interesting to see. Because again, all those WCW stars, I'd argue the only, out of those big WCW stars, I'd argue the only one who got that decent run was Booker T. He was probably the only one. Goldberg later on, but he had to have an awful run before he got to that. And I think it's such a shame for Sting because, I mean, his debut was amazing. Absolutely loved his debut at Survivor Series. It was phenomenal. I loved the build-up, and it was all going so well. But I think we all thought it should be Sting and Undertaker. And then it pivoted, and it was, well, it didn't even pivot because it wasn't even teased. It was Sting and Triple H. And I mean, what did we make of that? What did you make of that match? Because I know I felt like, and I'm a big Triple H fan. I do like him, but I just felt it was all just a bit
shit.
Yeah.
Pointless. Fucking waste of time.
It was like a
pantomime. I liked it.
What did you like about it?
I was thoroughly sports entertained. Is the best way I can put it. I think that's what it was because there was no real stakes to it. To be fair, and what I mean, I don't think Sting should have lost. To be fair, he should have got a win. That's a whole different discussion. But I didn't mind it. I mean, it was just one of those. It was just silly, and for me, it was just like I just enjoyed it. I can't put my finger on why. It was just like DX coming out and then the NWO coming out. It was just absolute complete bollocks, but the best kind of bollocks. So
that you'd only get in wrestling.
Exactly. I like new wrestling series, but we all kind of grew up in a time when there was bollocks aplenty in wrestling skits and segments and stuff. So it's still nice to have that a bit that stupidity is a bit of levity to everything else that's going on. So for me, it was it great? No, but it was the best kind of not great for me. So
see, I just saw it as another shot from Vince. It was WWE, WCW. Let's be honest, DX, NWO. DX came about because of the NWO.
Yeah,
it was for me. It was unnecessary. It was shit. Sting should have. If you're gonna put anyone over, Sting should have went over. I mean, he hasn't won a match in WWE. I know he's only had 2.
But how crazy is that? You know what I mean? That, one of the biggest names of all time never won a match in WWE. Like, that's crazy, isn't it?
Akira Tozawa has a better win record than Sting.
Mansoor has a better win record. Yeah. Especially in Saudi. He's the Undertaker in Saudi. He is. But yeah, and I think, like, again, I did enjoy the DX NWO face-off, I've got to say. But then I was kind of like, but hang on, like, the NWO were always like Sting was the enemy, and now they're defending him. But then I thought, I need to stop thinking about this so much because, like, the moment was pretty cool. But I think for me, it just felt like, I mean, I'm trying to remember even what year it was. I can't remember, but it was a long time after that had all finished, and Sting was that last holdout to move over, and it just felt a bit like, would this have meant more the WCW versus WWE aspect of it would that have meant more at the time? And should they have just been concentrating on dream matches with Taker and all these other people that they could have done? But I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess we'll never know, because there could have been some absolutely awesome matches that he could have had in WWE at the time. And for the record, I don't blame Seth Rollins with the buckle bomb, because I think it's a risky move, but I think he took a lot of heat for that, because I think we all presumed that Sting's career was over, and I imagine he did feel awful. I mean, what do you think? Can you remember much of that match, Kev, in terms of like the buckle bomb, and like, did you think it was Seth's fault? Did you think it was a bad move, or do you think that he was just unlucky?
It was just unlucky. I mean, I know people have said Seth Rollins is a bit stiff in the ring, but watching that, it was a true accident. And I mean, Sting understood it was as well. Like, he wasn't bitter towards him, and he's not. I was actually devastated that he got injured, because I was really looking forward to if there was going to be more payback for like him losing that WrestleMania and stuff, and how they're going to develop it, and it just didn't. I mean, they does him in the Hall of Fame, and that was about it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, going back to the WrestleMania match, right? I really think it was just to basically shine Vince's ego, because it was sort of like Roman Gladiators when he used to simulate battles in the arena.
Yeah.
It was basically the whole Monday Night War, and Vince is like the Emperor doing that. The Sting. And that's what I really thought when he sat in the back watching him, like watching his big victory, like replayed. And that's what.
Yeah. But like I say, I don't think that it shouldn't, and it doesn't discredit like all that other stuff that Sting did. You know what I mean? Because I think, obviously there might be some people who've only ever watched WWE and seen those two matches, but if you haven't seen stuff from TNA, from AEW, from WCW, like, absolutely get yourself back. Make sure that you're checking it out, because it's just like an amazing career, and he's faced pretty much anyone that you could think of that you would want to face through the years. From those early WCW matches, the whole NWO stuff, the TNA run. He was even doing, what was the name of there was a company in between as well, but they weren't around for long. He kind of wrestled for them. I think it was maybe Hogan's company that was touring Australia or something like that. He's been all over the place, So for me, to kind of bring us up to present day, well, near enough present day, and it was Winter Is Coming, wasn't it? When Sting debuted with the snow and all that kind of stuff, like, it was just awesome. Like, for me, when I think about kind of debuts in AEW, it's still one of my favorites. Like, it was absolutely phenomenal, and especially because it's like, you think about a lot of other ones, like Punk was really expected. Saraya was probably pretty expected. Even Adam Copeland was probably kind of expected by some people. I didn't have it on my bingo card that Sting was going to turn up. So when he did, that was like, it was a big moment, and quite reasonably early on in their as infancy as a company as well. So I think it was a huge shot in the arm for them. I mean, what are your memories of, we've talked a bit about kind of more recent Sting stuff, but like AEW Sting memories, are there any particular matches that we've enjoyed? I know obviously we've said he has a bit of a love for putting himself through tables as of late. Like, he's taking a leaf out of Darby Allin's book a bit for some of the high risk stuff. Anything that stood out in AEW that you've particularly enjoyed?
The match. Yeah, I was about to say that All In.
It was awesome live.
Time. It was unreal.
It
was and it was my daughter's favorite match that she watched. That she saw there. She said that was her favorite one. Weirdly enough,
it was brilliant. Yeah. And I think, like, for me, the big and this is one of the things that I love about AEW, that like they do acknowledge history, and they do kind of sort of harken back to things that obviously were well before their time, but having them both come out to Seek and Destroy by Metallica, like, that got a massive pop at Wembley, like, amazing, absolutely amazing. And it was just obviously by that point I think the sun was starting to come down, so it was probably the first match under that cover of darkness. Christian Cage, Swerve Strickland. Obviously, we talked a bit about Swerve last week and how we think he's just like flying at the minute. And then, of course, Sting and Darby. What I remember about that match, and again, is I remember Sting kind of going for the table spot and the table not breaking, and he thought, "Fuck it, I'll just do it again." I think we all started chatting one more time, and he's like, "Yep, one more time, let's do it." I'll feel it in the morning. It's fine. And I think that sums him up. I think he gets stuck in. Amazing memories. Even like I say, as we're talking, just different Sting memories popping into my head from all the companies. Do you know what I mean? There's just so much, like from coming down from the rafters as the Crow. The Seth Rollins promo where they're like going to unveil the statue and it's Sting underneath. That's probably one of my favorite WWE moments with Sting. There's just like so many. And yeah, I'll be sad to see his career come to an end. I will, but it's nice, similar to a lot of wrestlers who are in AEW at the moment, like Bryan Danielson, like Adam Copeland, like Christian Cage, that we're going to get to see him do it on his own terms, and that's that's the best thing we can say for anyone, really.
I think with Sting's, I think with Sting's, with Sting's run when he was Crow Sting, when he first came up, he basically didn't do a promo for an entire year. He just appeared, talk or anything, and I just think that's amazing. Like a wrestler, like how popular he was as Sting, because he was always really good on the mic.
Yeah,
but he didn't need to when he was that character. He was just like his presence, like dangling from the rafters, coming down and stuff, and it was just exciting, entertaining. And I think that says a lot for a wrestler when they don't say a word on the mic for an entire year and they're so over.
Yeah, but also like what patience on WCW's part to be like, let's stretch this out. Do you know what I mean? Like that would never happen in any of the company. And I think AEW sometimes play the long game. WWE have shown that they're capable of doing it with the bloodline and stuff. I don't think that they could. I don't think that anyone else would have had the patience to do that. And like you say, it takes a certain wrestler to do that, because at some point you're like, well, with other people, I just want you to do something now. But Sting he was captivating. He was up in the rafters. He was like, and it was such a stark change, because I guess this is something we've not really touched on while we've been talking. Such a stark change from who we've seen in the early 90s, felt betrayed by WCW, disappeared, and then now he's this like brooding character, and that's the Sting that's evolved, that we've kind of been talking about over the last kind of 20 minutes, half an hour or so.
He's influenced a lot of wrestlers, I think, though.
Yeah. I mean that's a good one, because we talk about Darby Allin. Obviously, that they've been paired together. Who else do you think that Sting's influence? Like who kind of comes to mind in that sense?
Cody Rhodes. After watching the match today, I mean, Cody's has said previously that Sting was one of his favorites when he was a kid. But he's a very watching that match, watch a Sting match from the early 90s is a bit against Flair or anybody or a Vader, and the way he is as a babyface is very similar to the way Cody is, in terms of where he fires up and gets in, and there's a lot of similar. There's more Sting and Cody than Dusty. There's more that clear. I mean, sure there's others. I think I would say Darby Allin might have had a Sting influence previously, but Darby Allin barely knew who Mick Foley was in one interview, so I'm not sure how much he saw Sting as a kid. But I can certainly say he's took some influence from him while he's been around him, definitely.
Yeah.
And Edge.
Yeah.
And Edge. Early 2000s Edge was very Sting-like.
Yeah. No, that's a good shout. Definitely. How about you, Kev? Because I know obviously you said it. Was there anyone that jumped to mind for you when you said that you obviously think he's inspired a lot of wrestlers?
I don't think the Wyatt family without Sting, without the Crow Sting kind of thing. It was like the mystique and the mystery. And I think that started, because I know obviously Undertaker started doing it, but we knew like I think was Vince basically making the Undertaker talk when he didn't need to and stuff. I don't know. It was that kind of like history about it from like not speaking and stuff. It was, and I think a lot of, I mean, that inspired a lot as well, like the theatrical side of it. I know it's can go overboard sometimes, but it wasn't to get a good balance. So I think modern wrestling has a lot to lot Sting a lot. Like obviously with it when he wrestled in the 80s and stuff, and then with him like reinventing himself completely. And I just think a lot. I mean, I can't really pinpoint it, but I think will owe him something.
So obviously, as we know, we kind of we found out last week that For the Love of Wrestling's announcing that he's by far at the moment, at least, the biggest guest that they've got on their books for next year. He's doing the Saturday only as Wolfpack Sting, which is pretty cool for because I imagine he doesn't do many appearances as Wolfpack Sting these days. Are you taking a Funko Pop, Robbie? Are you going to get him to sign? Have you got a Sting Funko Pop?
I have Crow Sting.
Ah,
I've got. I think what I'm going to probably do is a photo. It's like we were talking the other week. It's proof for one that I've met him, and I just go, look, my Sting. That's me next to Sting.
Yeah.
As opposed to an autograph, someone go, that's fucking fake that. I mean, with a picture, I go, no, that's actually me with Sting.
Yeah. But by the way, and then we're going totally off course, but it's because we've talked about Funkos. So at the convention I was at today, they had loads of WWE ones, and Robbie said to us, "Is Cody Rhodes there?" And I said, "I'll have a look," and I couldn't see him anywhere. And then I was literally on my way out, so like everybody's packing up, it's closed, everyone's done, and someone had a Cody Rhodes, but the shut up for business.
You see, I'm looking for it because when he come out, I was like, oh yeah, I'll get him when I get paid. Get him and when it came to getting paid, Smiths is fucking sold out, and the closest one was York.
Yeah,
and I like collecting them, but I don't like collecting them that much. But now you go on eBay and all that, and they're going like 30, 40 quid.
that's crazy.
13 quid in Smiths.
Yeah.
No,
it's mental because it's like, so I don't have any wrestling ones, but I've got loads of like rocking like on this side of the wall. No, you'll not be able to see them, but I've got loads of like, it's like I've got like Queen and Motorhead and Kiss and this, that, and the other. So I collect them. I think they're awesome. But at the end of the day, they're like, it's plastic, and then you go on and it's like someone's charging like £150 for some of them. Like, it's insane.
There's a CM Punk one, I think. Just got pink trunks. I think that's going for maybe 300 quid.
There you go.
But they bring out duplicates and they'll change like the tights color, and then that adds like 100 quid on top.
So if anyone sees a CM Punk, if anyone sees a Cody Rhodes Funko Pop, you need to email marksidepod@gmail.com.
Yeah,
and let Robbie know.
He's got a new one coming out because they're bringing a Bray Wyatt one out. You know the Royal Rumble Bray Wyatt.
Oh yeah.
That one. I'll definitely be trying to get that one because the value on that fucking skyrocket straight away.
No. Do you open them or are they boxed?
Boxed.
See, mine are all open. I've got like little plastic shelves up the wall, and they're all open. But then it's like that. People do that face. They're like, "Why have you opened it?" But it's because
See, for the Ben's birthday, I bought him the Golden Rock Funko.
Oh yeah.
And I had to watch him open the box. I was just like, my anxiety was going through the fucking roof.
That's brilliant.
And then he went and snapped the fucking glasses on it.
Oh.
And I mean, I've got my own one.
Okay.
I bought one for myself. Yeah.
I mean,
that's all right then. That's all right then.
But I've only got one wrestling one, and it's Vince McMahon. I was like, my wife bought.
I'd like some Mick Foley ones.
I've got Dude Love.
Oh, yeah. When we saying your wife bought you Vince McMahon?
Yeah, because she loves Vince. Like, it makes her laugh whenever she's on when we were on the telly. We went to Butlins for and she like hid it in the apartment when we got there. She was like, there's a package on the table for you, and I was like, what's Vince? I was like, he knows I'm here. He's gonna break the door. Like,
That's brilliant. So, anyway, on the Facebook feed, your missus posted like
Right.
a mid comment. It says, talking about my wrestling dream of Julia Hart beating MJF and what a quiet week it's been.
Mhm.
It's bad when the best match was a dream.
Yeah.
It's
Out.
a quiet week, but it's all right. Mike had a weird dream.
Well, to be fair, Bound for Glory was last night, so it's still part of this week, right? When
Yeah.
we're all wrapped up here, I'm going out my way to find Osprey v Speedball Bailey,
Oh,
because that
yeah.
match was apparently insane, and I've seen some clips in. Yeah, that's anybody listening. If you haven't seen it, from what I've seen, go and seek that out as soon as you can because it looks incredible.
See, with
It's just
Osprey, I
Impact.
just now with Osprey, I just automatically now assume it was a good match. Every match I've seen him in, which it isn't many, but every match I've seen him in has been fucking brilliant. I just assume now he's had a good match.
Yeah. I think there'll at least be, when we get to the end of the year and we're talking about match of the year, there'll be at least one of his matches comes up in the conversation, mainly because I'll bring it. So like I know that it will. But no, he'll definitely come up. Do you know what I mean? Just like unbelievable. So yeah, no, I want to check out the whole event actually. You know, I might sign up to their stream, their like equivalent to WWE Network just to check it out, to be honest. So
I think it's on Fight as well. Might be on.
oh, is it? Oh, I've got Fight. I'll do that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's all that's all we've got this week. So thank you for everyone for tuning in as always. I'm going to go watch Collision and check that out. And like I say, you know, we'll be back next week for more wrestling news. Hopefully, my sources will be a bit better than they were last week. Hopefully, we'll learn a bit more about where Roman Reigns is, and yeah, just more wrestling talk. So if you want to get involved, if you've got questions for us, anything like that, just email marksidepod@gmail.com and follow us in all the relevant places. But until then, I've been Mike Norris, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Cheers.
thanks everyone.
Bye, guys.
See you.